Hey, this is a video comparing the Oculus Rift S, the Valve Index, and the Oculus Quest. The too long didn't watch version of this video is if you don't have a powerful gaming PC and you don't plan on getting one, get an Oculus Quest. That's if you want real VR. If you want 360 degrees, fully immersive VR, get an Oculus Quest. If you have a gaming PC, like a powerful one, or planning on getting one, it's pretty much between, a Rift S or a Valve Index. So between those two, if you want to spend a lot of money and you want the best, get the Index, the Valve Index. If you don't want to spend that much, get the Rift S. So that's the summary here. But now I'm going to get into details. So first thing I'll talk about is portability. So of course the Oculus Quest is by far the most portable of the three because there's no wires. And I don't know. The controllers are right here. They come with it. It's the exact same controllers that come with the Rift S. So no wires, and it has a battery built into it, so you just charge it and you can take it anywhere and use it. Whereas the other two, have a wire connected to a PC. And in the case of the Index, you have these base stations that you mount on your walls that shoot lasers out. That there's sensors on the Index that can detect those lasers, and that's how it knows where you are. And the controllers have sensors on them too to detect the lasers. And you're stuck in that one room. Wherever you keep those lighthouses, that's what they're called, lighthouses or base stations, you're stuck there. Whereas with the Rift S, this has, well, they call this inside out tracking because it just has cameras all over the headset. And basically, you can be anywhere there's a PC that can do VR, and you can use this. Or you could just use a laptop. You could take a laptop anywhere you want to go and use this, so you don't have to worry about being in a specific room. So that's one of the big reasons I got this Rift S is because I have three PCs that are capable of VR in this house, so I could go to three different rooms where those PCs are and just use this. And whereas this Valve Index technically is also inside out tracking because it has sensors on it that are detecting light. Just like the Rift S has cameras that are detecting light, except this has, as I said, the external base stations that are shooting the lasers, whereas the Rift S just looks at the outside world. Now the Oculus Quest does the same thing, looks at the outside world because it has cameras on here. This has four cameras, whereas the Rift S has five cameras. There's two there, two on the. There's one there on the side, one there on the side, and then there's one on the top. So of course for portability, this wins. So recently there was an Oculus Connect 6 event where they announced that they're coming out with this cable called an Oculus Link that's going to connect into the USB-C port right here, and then you can connect your Quest to a PC, like a powerful PC to play any PC VR game. I mean, I think it's going to play any Oculus game on Steam also, so the Oculus Store or on Steam. So that's a cool feature. But I don't know. There's been a lot of controversy lately over that. Like, all right, a lot of people bought a Rift S, and this came out not that long ago this year, and they feel like, well, what the hell, Oculus? Now your Quest can do the same thing the Rift S can. So like, why did I waste my money on this? Because they're the same price. They're both $400. But I'm gonna get into reasons why I think buying the Rift S isn't a mistake. Um, so there's the Oculus Link, but then there's also they announced hand tracking. So they're gonna add hand tracking to this to where you don't have to use controllers and you can just put your hands in front. But from reports I've heard, the hand tracking isn't very good. There's a lot of latency, and there's a lot of occlusion problems because if your hands cover each other, the cameras can't see the hand behind it. And you have the same problem with the controllers because these controllers have infrared lights on them, and if this hand's covering it, the cameras can't see it. But there are better algorithms in place to make up for that. So usually that's not too bad of a problem. But with the hand tracking it is. And eventually they'll probably add it to Rift S, but there's no promises about that. All right. So comfort, that's the big thing here. For me, this Oculus Quest is very uncomfortable. I noticed it, you know, the first day I got it. I was just like, holy shit, it was killing my forehead. I went on a VR show called, a YouTube show called VR 365 the day I got this, and the first thing I did was show my red forehead and talk about how painful it was. And so within 45 minutes, it's like hurting my forehead and I want the thing off. Because it's so front heavy, because the battery and the CPU and all that, and like the cooling fan, there's a fan inside here. It's all in the front. So it's all just like, it's like almost like a brick on your face. And there's no weight back here. In the prototype version called the Santa Cruz, they had the battery and the CPU and all that in the back here, and I wish they stayed with that design because it would be balanced way better. And I have a VR cover right here, and to be honest with you, I haven't even tried it yet because I never use this thing. Because I have these PC headsets, so it's like, well, why? I mean, I don't have much reason to take this anywhere. Like, I don't like go on vacation that often, or you know, any sort of trips. So, and if I did, I probably wouldn't want to use this much. I'd probably want to actually like do stuff where I went. So that's the big comfort issue. So Rift S, this has been comfortable for me. I haven't had any issues. You know, I was worried at first that it was just going to be a halo, because I don't really like halos just sitting on my forehead, but they also have this top strap. I really need a top strap, and that's also why PSVR isn't that comfortable for me. So this thing's been comfortable for me, and so has the Valve Index. You know, the only thing in the beginning, the Valve Index, it was hurting my forehead because the lenses were up really close, but you can adjust this dial to make the lenses further away or, you know, closer. So it hasn't been an issue since that. All right, what's the next thing? Resolution. So the Index is 2880 by 1600 pixels, and the Quest is actually the same resolution. The lowest resolution of the two is the Rift. I mean, of the three is the Rift S. It's 2560 by 1440. So that's a knock against this, but there's a catch to that. So these two have RGB panels, RGB, red, green, blue, LCD panels. So what that means is the pixels in these headsets on the screens, they have 3 subpixels per pixel, a red, a green, and a blue subpixel. What that results in is like better pixel fill, and there's less screen door effect. PlayStation VR has an RGB screen, but it's an OLED, and that screen's well known for having very little, you know, screen door effect, and these have the same thing. Whereas the Quest here, this has a OLED pentile pixel layout screen. So pentile is what the Vive and the Rift have, and they're both known for, you know, having, like, especially the Vive has the worst screen door effect. That's because of the pentile screen. So pentile has like sort of this like diagonal pixel layout you'll sort of see, and it's 2 subpixels per pixel. So it's like a red and a green in one pixel, and then a red and a blue in one pixel, then a red and a green in the next pixel. So it kind of goes like that. So there's more of a gap between the pixels because it doesn't have 3 subpixels, and it doesn't look as good. I can see why all these manufacturers are going with RGB now, because it just looks way better. And the pixels, instead of being this diagonal pattern, are vertical, you know, just like horizontal, vertical, and it just looks better. It just, as I said, the screen door effect isn't as obvious, and that's the way to go from now on. And I think even John Carmack said that he wished they went with LCD, RGB in this thing instead of the OLED pentile. But OLEDs have better blacks. So this can do better blacks than both of these because they're LCDs. LCDs just can't do blacks as well as OLEDs, and OLEDs can also like do brighter colors and kind of more vivid. Like if you want vivid, the Vive is the most vivid, brightest colors I've ever seen in a VR headset. But it has that bad SDE problem. So that's the catch there. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is hertz. So this is the lowest at 72 hertz, the Quest. Then the Rift S is 80 hertz. A lot of people were pissed. I was too when we learned that this was going to be 80 hertz because the original Rift, the CV1 they call it, is 90 hertz. So they went down. That's because they increased the resolution when they went with the Rift S, and to try to maintain the same minimum specs, they said they lowered the hertz. It's not a huge deal. I mean, you'd have a hard time telling the difference between 90 and 80, but I think I can tell the difference. And then, whereas the Index, this can do, well, if you wanted to go to 80, you could, but this can do 90, it can do 120, and it can do 144 hertz. I've gone up to 120 and 144, and it hasn't made enough of a difference for me to want to stay there. I'd rather stay at 90 hertz and just increase the super sampling to get like a sharper image. I don't know if I already said it. This by far, the Index, has the sharpest image of these three. Definitely, because it has the same resolution as the Quest, but it, as I said, it's RGB, and you can super sample this thing. Technically you can super sample a Quest if you get into the like config files and mess around, but I doubt it could handle it very well. I haven't tried it, but you can super sample this thing really easily and make it look great. So that's Hertz. Field of view. Valve Index has the best field of view of these three. I don't know, it might be somewhere around 120-ish, maybe somewhere approaching 130. I had a Pimax 5K Plus, and that, obviously had a really wide field of view, but I had other problems with that, like distortion, and the image just didn't look right to me. But that had a large, a medium, and a small field of view, and I think the Valve Index looks pretty close to the field of view of the Pimax's small field of view. It's still a little bit smaller than the small Pimax field of view, but it's definitely noticeable that it's wider than like Rift and Vive. The Rift S is reported to have a slightly larger field of view than the Rift, the original Rift, but I'm not positive of that, but that's what they say. And the Quest has a slightly smaller field of view than the original Rift. Alright, so glare. Alright, so these three, the Quest and the Rift S, have the least glare of the three. I mean, they're probably comparable. I'm not positive. If like you compared the two, it's probably not a big difference. The Index, one of the Index's big problems is it has pretty bad glare. There are dual lenses in these, like each side has I think a dual lens setup, and I don't know if that's why it causes like this extra light to be caught, that you can see on the lenses. But like in a dark scene where there's like contrast, like a dark scene with some light stuff around it, like you're gonna see it on the lenses really obviously, like especially toward the bottom. But you can bend this thing like this way, and I find if I kind of turn it that way, it reduces that a little bit. But yeah, that's one of the biggest drawbacks of the Index. The IPD, this has an IPD adjustment, a manual IPD adjustment right here. The Vive and the Rift, the original Rift, had an IPD adjustment. The Quest has a manual IPD adjustment, and it's right there. But the Rift S does not have a manual IP adjustment. Its IPD is all in software. So that's another thing. That's the reason a lot of people were pissed off when the Rift S was announced. So it's all software, so that means this accommodates fewer IPDs. If you don't know IPD, it's interpupillary distance. It's the distance between your two pupils. Some people have, wide eyes, some people have really narrow eyes. Mine's in the low 60s. So this is fine for me, but if you have a wide IPD or really narrow IPD, it's not, this isn't going to work well for you. Whereas the Index and the Quest, because they have that manual IPD, these can accommodate more variation in IPDs. And audio. Alright, so Valve Index has by far the best audio of these three. It has these off-ear headphones. They don't even touch your ears. And the audio is really good. The bass is good. I feel like I've even heard sounds in some games, like even old games like Arizona Sunshine. I've heard sounds that I've never heard before. I was walking around and I could hear crickets and shit in the distance, and I wasn't sure if it was is that a cricket in my room or what, because I didn't remember ever hearing that before in the game. So stuff like that, ambient noises that I just never heard before. The Quest, both the Quest and the Rift S have built-in audio into the head strap, and it seems like companies are trying to go away from having headphones that are right on your ear. I guess people have complained about it. Makes them feel hot. Maybe it makes them feel claustrophobic. But the audio, I think, is pretty good in the Quest. It's good enough that I haven't bothered wearing headphones or anything. I like less hassle. The Rift S, though, is the worst audio I've ever heard in my life from any VR headset. It's terrible. I would never use the audio, built-in audio. So I added these. These are like $35 Mantis headphones you can get on Amazon or whatever. And these make it way better. There are other options. There are more expensive ones you can get that are supposedly sound better. But these work for me. I haven't, some people paint them to make them look better and like route these cables better, but I just haven't bothered with that yet. I'm too lazy. Next thing, controllers. So these controllers are for both the Quest and the Rift S, and they have an analog stick, and they're very similar to the original Rift controllers, except the ring is on the top so that these cameras can see it better, because on the original Rift the ring was on the bottom and then it wouldn't be able to track them very well. Yeah, these are pretty good. They're really small, which oh, but I bought some I forgot about that. I bought some Mantis, was it Mantis? No, it was Mammoth controller extender things that give it like a longer handle, and then it would let you, just like the Index, it'll let you let go of the controller, because it has these straps that'll go around your hand and you can just let go, so that's pretty cool. But this is analog stick buttons, triggers, grip on the side. Yeah, they're pretty good. Here, I've shown these before, Valve Index controllers. They strap on your hands, and there's no grip button. You just like squeeze, and that's how you do the grip. I kind of at this point would prefer an actual grip button, because in some games it's just kind of tough to to trigger the grip the way you want. Like if you want to drop something or throw something, sometimes it just doesn't work right, and you have to like fiddle with the settings, and sometimes you just can't get it right. And it's all touch sensitive, so like in a game that it allowed it, or in the home environment, if you do this, you're going to see your hand doing this. But like some of the fingers, like for me especially, like maybe the middle finger and maybe the ring finger, a lot of times don't track very well. So there's a touchpad here. I don't know why they put a touchpad on the front, this little tiny touchpad. I mean, it's a touch sensitive thing, but I don't know what the point of it is really. And then there's analog sticks and B and A triggers. So obviously it's cool that you can do that, throw stuff. But there's been this whole click gate thing, where with the on both of them there's an issue where you can't get it to click. On this one, if I press left and try to click in, it won't click in. And if I try to go to the right and click in, it won't click in. Down, it'll click. Up, it'll click. Wait, will it? Let me see. No, when I go up, it's not really clicking very well. It is sort of. All right, so the controller that matters more is the one where you're moving around with, the left controller. So I'll press forward and click down. No click. Press down. I'm getting a click down. What about right? A little tiny click. Left, I'm getting a really tiny click, but no click forward. So normally you're gonna want to click going forward, because that's, you want to sprint. So like a lot of people have been RMAing these controllers to get replacements, and for a while people were saying they were getting the same problem, but now I think people are getting controllers that click in all directions no problem. So if you bought an Index now, I would think you would get one of those. I just haven't bothered to contact Valve or do anything about this yet. I don't know if I will. I don't know. I mean, I have a 6-week-old baby, so I don't even have a lot of time to mess with this stuff anymore. I can hear her crying right now, actually. So that's controllers. Yeah, these I'm not a big fan of these. I would kind of prefer the Rift S and Quest controllers over these, actually. Because these are just finicky, and a lot of games just don't have good support for them. And there's a tool in Steam VR where you can like fiddle with all the settings and everything, and it's kind of a hassle. If you don't want to have to mess and fiddle with stuff, then I wouldn't really recommend these controllers. As far as games, the Index is going to work with most Steam VR games. The Oculus, the Rift S will too. The thing with this has native Oculus Store support, whereas if you wanted to play Oculus exclusives, like coming out soon is Asgard's Wrath, Stormland. They announced that Medal of Honor game. Then there's going to be Lone Echo 2. You know, Oculus has awesome exclusives. If you want to play those with this index, you're going to have to get Revive, which is this, you know, sort of like a wrapper program that, you know, translates Oculus language, VR language into OpenVR language. And so some games work fine, some games don't. You know, it might take a while for the developer of Revive to make a game work. I had enough problems with Revive where I just decided, that's when I got a Rift. I was like, I don't want to deal with these problems. I wanted the shit to just work. So I got a Rift. But that Rift I sold. I replaced it with this Rift S. I sold the Rift because it had, you know, all these cameras mounted and I was stuck in one room. And the difference in graphics is pretty dramatic. It's way better on the Rift S. So I sold the Rift a little while ago. And the games, okay, so this Quest, it has like, you know, worse versions. Because this is a mobile processor, it has worse versions of like, you know, a lot of PC games. You know, they're dumbed down. The graphics are watered down. But because they announced that Oculus Link thing, you're going to be able to play PC games on this. But it's a USB 3 cable. And I just don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be, it's really weird that they're going to send all that data, all the tracking data, all the video and audio over a USB 3 cable. They said it's going to be like an optical fiber cable, which is kind of weird. And they also said you could use your own USB 3 cable. I don't know how well that's going to work, but I saw interviews of Oculus, you know, people even admitting that there's artifacting and that it's not ideal and it's not as good as a, you know, meant for PC VR headset like the Rift S. So like, I'm pretty skeptical. I've seen so many people saying they're going to sell the Rift S because they're just going to stick with a Quest with the Oculus Link, and I don't agree with that because this thing, to me, the display is way better. You have 8 more hertz. It's way more comfortable. That's the biggest thing for me. I don't want to wear this thing. Oh yeah, a lot of people have modded the Quest with this deluxe audio strap. See, I have one in a box that I haven't even opened. Because I was like debating, am I just going to sell the Quest? Like, because I don't even use it. I was like, I bought it thinking like, I'll take it to like family events and stuff, maybe parties, but it hasn't really happened. So I don't know. I was thinking about modding this on there and then seeing if that would help. And then I talked to a guy who told me he put the deluxe audio strap on and he put a giant battery in the back as a counterweight, and it still was uncomfortable. So I'm like, shit. Do I even want to bother? I don't know. The price. So yeah, this is $400. But if you want that Oculus Link cable, that's $80. So I don't know. They said you could use your own cable, but good luck with that. I'm pretty skeptical. This is $400, but you know these were $35 to add these headphones on. And then the Valve Index with the controllers and the base stations is $1,000. I only bought the controllers and the headset because I already had version 1 base stations from my Vive. So this is $1,000. So the bottom line is, if you're really big into VR and you want the best, yeah, get the Index. If you're not too worried about money. As far as the knuckles, well, if you don't have a Vive already, because you can use Vive wands with the Index. If you don't have a Vive already, you kind of have to get knuckles unless you want to buy Vive controllers separately. But like so many people don't like Vive controllers that you probably shouldn't. I mean, I like them, but I think I'm on an island with that. So yeah, get the Index if you're big into it. Otherwise, I say get the Rift S because I still think it's really good. Of course, other than the audio, it's $400. This is a much better deal than the Index is. The Rift S is a much better deal. And even if I didn't have either a Quest or a Rift S, I would still... Well, I wouldn't know what I know now, but knowing what I know now, I would want the Rift S, definitely. So these people that are selling it, I don't know. Hopefully they've tried a Quest first to see if they like it, to see if it's comfortable for them. So this is $400. There's this is $400 for the 64 gig. I think this is 64 gig. There's a 128 gig one that's $500. Um, you know, I think I'm probably gonna sell this because I just don't use it, and I don't know. I think I'm one of the few people who isn't excited about it now. All these people are excited about the hand tracking, the Oculus Link, but I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. I think that's it. Um, yeah, I think I covered it all. I'm looking at my list over here. So that's it. If you have any questions, just ask and I'll let you know. So that's it. Thanks for watching.